It's very fascinating as to how, when you're engaged with a project, you sometimes forget the cultural nuances. We had done the entire project, we had done the artwork, I had written up the card, and we sent it to the printer, and he got majorly upset. You're calling Shankar Bhagwan, Shiv, you're calling the fool? What do you mean? How can you call him the fool? Bewkoof bula raha hai. And we realized, yeah, there is certainly going to be some trouble there. We'll have morchas and jhandas. So then what to do? So we had to change the name to the wild card, because otherwise people would take offense. How can you call him the fool? But that card is called the fool in the tarot because mad people in most cultures of the world were regarded as people having access to other dimensions. In tribal societies, the mad person is instantly chosen to be the healer, to be the shaman, because the attack of madness is the first sign that this person is special. So this person can now communicate. He becomes what is called liminal. He becomes the boundary between vibrations. He becomes the boundary between levels of consciousness. He straddles that boundary. So in the tarot, they understood that there is an aspect of chaos in life, which is the fool. There is an aspect of unpredictability in life. There is an aspect of weirdness. There is an aspect of uniqueness. There is an aspect of strangeness, which is always there. Civilization and everything are ways we try to control that. And in the end, it always overwhelms. So that the popular saying shit happens explains it quite well. So in India we knew this, in the Vedas, the real god of the Vedas is Rudra. Indra, Mitra, Vayu, Agni, Varuna, these are all aspects of Rudra. That is very clear in the Vedas. Which is why the most important verse in the Vedas after the Gayatri is the Mahamrityunjaya, which is directly to Rudra. Now this is Rudra. And if you look at it, every tarot fool is always with dogs. He's always depicted with a dog. This is the Aghora. Aghora means not terrible, because Rudra is always that sense of being a frightening god. Rudra is a healer. There is a specific word, shoot your arrows of healing at us, not your arrows of disease. So he can either mess you up or he can heal you. And this is also an interesting aspect of the Aghora or the Bhairava, that he is always nude. He has no pretenses, he has no civilization. So in Nataraja temple at Chidambaram, it's very interesting. In the evening they bring out this bronze Bhairava Murti, and because of the positioning from the courtyard, all you can see is his backside. Just exactly like that. You can just see these two spheres and they're doing Abhishekam. So I find that to be such an extraordinary combination of humor and wisdom, that sometimes that's all you get to see. You know, and, and that that whole carefree acceptance, that is the authentic human being. No costume, no pretense. And Sandhyakal, we will acknowledge that form of Shiva. And that is exactly the fool. The fool is always about pure and simple, authentic behavior. It might look strange, it might look peculiar, it might look odd, it might look bizarre, but whatever else it is truthful. So it is a catalyst. And that is exactly what Rudra is also, because Rudra in the Vedas is not part of the Vedic tradition. He doesn't get any part of the sacrifice. When you do the Havan, it doesn't go to Rudra. He's always out of it. He's always outside. He's never part of society. He's always that wild element which is outside the circle of civilization and culture and stability and rules and regulations. Just today, I think it was just fascinating that today I'm going to talk about Rudra, and I saw this daily quote these Isha people have of Jaggi, and Jaggi said that Shiva can never be controlled. He's always an outlaw. You can join his gang. He's never going to be a societal fellow. He's never going to be a part who can be controlled. Who Anatole France, who said that a married man with children will do anything for money. So this is that kind of wild, free, and which we all find fascinating in a very deep sense when we see a completely authentically free person who does not have any inhibitions, who does not have any filters, and will say exactly what he or she thinks and feels about a certain situation. We all find that fascinating. We find that, oh man, and we have that little regret. We have too much to lose. We couldn't. So Shiva is that aspect, or Rudra is that aspect, or the fool is that aspect where damn regret and damn the consequences. Just this one time, let me be, let me be authentic. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he kissed my ass literally. Like, that's all you get to see in Chidambaram. I was laughing my guts out. You go there and everybody standing so devoutly, and they're doing all these various with honey and with milk and sandalwood, and all you can see is these two gleaming spears. Now the dog is a very interesting choice because spiritually the dog is always, if it's a faithful companion, and the dogs are always a symbol of healing. So medicinally always the dogs, of course in the Rudra thing the 4 dogs are the 4 Vedas and things like that. But the dog is always a symbol of healing, because if the dog is wounded, it will retreat and it will lick itself on the wound until whatever hormones are in its saliva, the wound heals. Dogs will lick you also if you have a wound, and we will dirty get infected. No, actually you will get healed, but we have become so sterile now that it might actually cause problems. So the dog is always a symbol of healing, and yogis know, they know certain things that dogs can do. Dogs and cats are two animals, which is partly the reason why they became pets, quite apart from all the other reasons, that dogs and cats can absorb human karma. They can absorb human karma. So very often your pet will take your karma, which is not a recommended thing, but it will do it. I've seen that happen. It can be misused also, which is why occult people, witches, would always have a cat. Because you can do many things. A cat is a sort of catalyst for Kundalini. A cat is a catalyst for that inner energy, so they would do many things with that. So that's all. Let's not get into all that. But fundamentally, this attitude of freeness, this attitude of not being constrained, this attitude of refusing to accept any sort of limitation on what you can be or what you like, and being okay with the consequence. If that is what I'm going to lose, then that is what I'm going to lose. But this is who I am, you don't have to like it. I am not looking for your approval. That is a whole authentic. The original word for the fool in the tarot was Lemath, the death. Checkmate is actually Shamath, the king is dead. Mate, that checkmate is actually Shamath. शामत आ गई ना. उसका मतलब है कि शाह का मत, the king is dead. Chess went from India to Persia, and then the Europeans came to know it from Persia, so they picked up the checkmate from Shamat. They heard those people say Shamat, Shamat. उसी से checkmate आ गया. But that whole, I wouldn't say uncontrolled, but that whole freedom, in all societies the spiritual person is respected because instinctively we sense that this person is free in a way we are not. This person is unconstrained in a way that we are not. This person has access to another kind of vibration or to another kind of consciousness that we do not have, which is why they are respected. Even if we don't approve of all they do, and we are in India, of course, we have all these Naga sadhus and all that, but yeah, that's all the full energy. That's entirely the full vibration. And that desire to dump everything, who needs this crap and to just walk out, that's always very intoxicating. So that sense of, which is why it is the first card in the tarot, that the basis of the human nature is to be free. We have forgotten it. It is the first card in the Akashic vibration. It is the first card in the spiritual vibration. That the core of all this effort that we have been doing for 1 decade, you go through the earth tattva, through the water, through the fire, you work, the core of all that, it is to be free. Now, you can choose how you will engage with the world, but you must always be free. Now, this is a difficult concept, but that is where the tarot keeps coming back, because it is not a renunciate practice. It is not something that you... How do you choose, or what limitations do you voluntarily accept? Because that is a social construct, that is a social reality we have to engage with. But are you actually free? If it comes down to it, can you walk away from it? So that is why this card is like a gatekeeper to the whole thing. Can you get past this? Then we'll teach you the other stuff. If you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to grow up, if you're not willing to accept it. So inner reading this card is very important, very interesting, because it just shatters the whole reading. No matter what you have thought is appearing, the whole situation, it's like it was ice and now it is water, and mostly water vapor. What you thought was very clear-cut parameters has become completely fluid. So the minute this card comes up, you realize, okay, now what we think it was going and proceeding in a certain way, no. We have to pull back and consider. There might be multiple options appearing at the moment. So this card is a very immense game changer that way.
Would you meditate on it?
Yes, of course. If you're willing to accept the lessons it gives you. That is why right at the beginning, you want to get into the major arcana here. If you don't want to deal with that, if you don't want to accept freedom as your fundamental foundation, if you cannot accept growing up and being responsible, then stop right here. That is why it is called the death. Each time we come into a higher stage of consciousness, we die to the older stage. Even the mantra of Rudra is the fool, he is called Aghora. Aghora means not terrible, because even though he looks so strange, he's got a cup which is a human skull. He's got a damru which has a snake, which only means that it's activated kundalini. It's like, and he's got this ankusham. Now that is interesting, because that is the thing that you use to control the elephant. So it is not like he lacks discipline. Just because he is free doesn't mean he's undisciplined. He has tremendous discipline. He has got the ankusham, and and he holds his little short stabbing trident. Now, it's only in recent times that Shiva has been associated with the Trishul, but actually Shiva has always been bow and arrow, axe, sword. So after all that was taken away and given, he had to borrow it from his wife, because that is her weapon. But this Aghora, in South India, this form is still there in temples. There is even a temple or two to Aghoras. The Bhairava form is never worshipped in a full temple by itself. It is always like a guardian. Just as Bhairava is a guardian for the major arcana, the Bhairava is always outside and he is a guardian. Because if there is going to be any negative vibration, any occult work, do it over there. Don't bring all that nonsense into the main temple. Yeah. So that's what I said, liminal, between stages. They are always between one level of consciousness and the other. And the Fool is very clearly that. So it's a fascinating sort of card. It's a fascinating level of And when we are transitioning in life, when we are growing from one stage of life to the other, he is the mentor. There is always. But even the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, it is called the Mrityunjaya. No?
It's about
Death,
detachment,
not really.
isn't it?
Urvarukamiva bandhanat, as the right cucumber falls off the stalk. So, things have come to fruition, things have matured. And if it continues there, it will start rotting. So, it is better that it drops. So, there is an inevitability in processes. Certain thing comes to its peak. In the yogis and the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, they had a concept, an amazing concept, which really fits into this. It's called enantiodromia. Enantiodromia means as soon as a situation reaches its peak, it starts transforming into its opposite, which is basically the yin and the yang. As soon as any situation reaches its peak, it starts transforming into its opposite. Enantiodromia. Enantiodromia. It's a fascinating concept. I thought only the yogis knew, but the ancient Greeks were pretty remarkable guys. Yeah, they've got fabulous concepts, fabulous definitions. So this concept of enantiodromia is very important in the fool. That, and also don't be attached to an outcome, or don't be attached to now this is the way it is going to be. No, things will change. That sense of change is the only constant. That sense of there will always be evolution. So Shiva is the force behind evolution. Shiva is consciousness, pure consciousness, and he is the force behind evolution. He is the force behind everything. That man is a transitional animal. All yogis know that man is not the last word in consciousness. Man is the way consciousness is using itself. We are pushing towards some other kind of more energy based, less flesh based. So this is where the whole game started, with the fool, with the Rudra Shiva, with the Bhairava, Ghora. They are all the same. So that concept of the fool is very important, because till now we were dealing with life situations. We were dealing with Vat Tattva. We were dealing with our body. We were dealing with our finances. We were dealing with our emotions. We were dealing with our creativity. We were dealing with our mental. Now we are dealing directly with our spiritual, with our evolutionary potential. Where do we move? How do we transform? How do we come to our full? Now this is the other beautiful word that only the Greeks have, enteleki, which is the only translation in the world for Swadharma. What is the purpose encoded within you? What is it that you are born for? What is it that you're supposed to do? That's your Swadharma. It doesn't mean following the rules of your caste and language group. It means your enteleki. What is it that is unique about you? What is your purpose? What is your contribution? And they have that word, enteleki. It's a very, very important word. Swadharma ka only translation I have seen in enteleki. Now, this is the guy who is behind that impulse. And there are certain stages in life where, Daisy can vouch for that, and and Vasundhara, that life stands in front of you and says, now deal with what is happening. The certain energy rises in a certain way, and then it says, now you have to pay attention. 10 years back it happened to her. Her life was such that she could not pay attention. 10 years later it came up again. Now pay attention. This guy. He is the fellow behind it. The fool is the fellow behind it. So it's basically the same. If you look at it, it's basically the same. Except that I wanted that connection to the Natraja, except that he should not dance in a civilized, by the Natya Shastra rules, he should dance in a wild manner. Because even that he won't. Yeah. So it's basically the same. And in the end, when we come to the world, when you're in your peak of your game, then you're the Nataraja. Because Nataraja is very kind and gentle, family man, takes care of people, that kind of. But the core is always this. The core is always this wildness. Freedom. It's not even wildness. We call it wildness because we are so unused to freedom. Small children always have it. They don't like to be restrained. You don't want to. They don't want to be picked up. Try picking up a small child that doesn't want to be picked up. Have you seen the kind of strength that comes into? They have the sense of authenticity, and then we socialize them. We train them into acceptable modes of. Yeah? And then we send them to prison. Sit up straight. Don't talk.
Civilized.
Yeah? Civilized.
Be civilized.
Civilized.
When a child falls, you cry. Because that's what you're supposed to do when you get hurt.
So
You tell
those,
them,
so
"Don't-
those,
Don't cry. And if we
Yeah.
fall, we look around.
Yeah.
There's someone watching us. Before we even come to the house, we go ahead
so
and cry
that
and
that
calm
sense
down.
of freedom, you must understand that tarot is a yoga. Yoga is always about being connected to a higher vibration. If that doesn't free you, if that doesn't make you more, it lessens you, it is not yoga. Anything that doesn't make you more is not yoga. In every authentic spiritual tradition, they never praise you. If you are doing well, the only praise they have for you is more is expected. More is expected. Whether in yoga or the samurai, the samurai in fact have it, they quote it all the time. More is expected. That is actually a great compliment. It takes some time before you realize that the teacher is very pleased with you. That is why the teacher is saying that you are like irritated. Like I have done so much
So what
and
you say, more is expected.
more is expected. So anything that limits you, anything that constrains you is not yoga, is not spiritual. It has to enlarge you, not expand you, because expand means heat has been given. So, so as soon as that source of heat is removed, you contract. So anything that enlarges you, and that is that vibration of the food. So it's a simple test. Am I becoming freer? Am I becoming more? Am I enlarging in my abilities, in my consciousness, in who I am as a human being, in my compassion, in my intelligence, in all aspects of life, or am I contracting? Simple. Yoga is actually very simple. It's just that people first like to contort their bodies and then their minds and then think they're doing yoga. None of that is really yoga. All that is besides the point. And none of that is the tarot also. Tarot is actually exceedingly simple. In fact, it's frighteningly simple. That's what I find. It's the sheer directness of it always stuns me. This is the way it is now. Can you deal with it or not? And this guy is just about that. This is reality. This is reality. Shall we move forward from here? All right? Okay. Sarvam Shomya.